I want to move on to Tesla because you brought it up a moment ago. You've been a long time bull on Tesla. You have been buying shares recently after selling them for most of 2023. The stock down about 30% so far this year. We covered the news this week that shipments from Tesla's Shanghai factory sank to the lowest in over a year in February. The challenges facing the EV industry have been well documented. We've talked about those a lot. Why do you still like Tesla, considering all of the challenges in the EV space and also what many critics would say are disappointing fundamentals?
So yes, you're right. We were selling last year as it was in the $300 to $400 range. It's back to $175. And this is what portfolio managers do. We have a 5-year investment time horizon for Tesla, and our price expectations from here, I mean, we see roughly a 7 to 10-fold increase. I know we're in the process of revising our model, so I'm not at liberty to give you the new number. But
would that new number be higher or lower than 2000?
Well, we're pushing it out a year, and therefore it will be higher because the autonomous taxi platform opportunity will be in full force, we think, and we believe that Tesla will get the lion's share of that market here in the U.S., if not elsewhere. Autonomous taxi platforms are SaaS models. Tesla's current gross margin is, well, it's in the teens right now because it's been cutting prices, but we think normalized, the EV margin is in the 30% range. SaaS margins are in the 80% range. Most analysts focusing on the stock have nothing in their models, or very little, for autonomous. Our confidence that autonomous is going to happen has increased because it has happened. We see Waymo successful. We see a lot of success and commercial success, that is, in China. It can be done. We think Tesla will launch a national service. And Tesla, this is where AI comes in. Tesla has orders of magnitude more data than all of the other auto and tech companies going after this market combined. And what's important about that is that it has corner cases that nobody else has. Rare occurrences on the roads that it has recorded and it is prepared for, but others aren't.
Cathie,
they just don't have.
I just want to jump in. It's kind of like a running joke with the Tesla community, because Elon Musk says every year we're going to have this autonomous driving technology, and every year since he started saying it, 2017, 2018, it has failed to materialize. Why are you so confident it's going to happen in the near future?
Well, because it has happened, as I just said, and so it's not if, it is when. That's the most important reason. Interestingly, in his last conference call, Tesla's last conference call, Elon said, yeah, I know I've been wrong about it, so I'm not even going to make a projection. I actually thought that was good, and maybe it has a better shot now. And we're looking at some of their hiring and their job postings and seeing rumblings in different cities that they're starting to get ready.
Hey, Cathie, something I know I brought up this with you before, but I think back to you and my first interview back in May of 2014, so almost 10 years ago. But you brought up Elon Musk when he wasn't a household name or what his company was doing, and you likened him to Thomas Edison. And I guess what I want to ask you, you know this individual, you talk with him, you followed him obviously for a long time. Do you ever feel, do you feel that way still about him in terms of likening to someone like Thomas Edison? And how do you find clarity and feel comfort in some of the questionable and controversial things that Elon comments on or that he says?
Yes, well, we're focused on the technology, and as is he. He is the inventor of our age, and this age is a very special age because the 5 major innovation platforms around which we have centered our research are converging, and 3 of them he is helping to converge. This autonomous taxi platform opportunity is the convergence of robotics. Autonomous vehicles are robots. Energy storage, they will be electric.
Right.
And artificial intelligence, where those are three separate S-curves feeding each other, and should lead to super exponential growth. He has understood this idea that technologies are going to converge with one another, and that is the way he's been thinking. He's first principles research. Just because something's been done one way for a very long time, think autos, doesn't mean it's going to remain that way. And that's why he's going to win.
Do you ever feel, though, that he gets distracted or can be too much? Yeah.
He is so laser focused on technology, and he, in the case of Tesla, the electric vehicle side, that is on automatic pilot. They are just scaling, and what he is doing is becoming, the manufacturer of factories. He's trying to figure out how to automate and continue to drive down the costs there. His focus is on autonomous now, certainly, and of course you can say on X he's distracted, but he's really more focused on the innovation. How can I go back to the future where I started, which was in the payments app space, sold to PayPal? How can I turn this into not only a payments app, but an everything app? And I think he's hard at work doing that in ways that we don't know yet.
Most people had childhood dreams of zooming around in a shiny cherry red sports car. But what if we told you that the future of that dream might be a lot quieter and cleaner? Gas-powered cars, once the undisputed kings of the road, are slowly getting pushed aside for their electric counterparts. And even more, it's interesting that a significant part of this change was caused by Tesla.
Maybe one more question, Elon, with regard to new vehicle designs coming to the market. Of course, you cannot share with us confidential secrets, but anyways, what are the things you believe, let's say, we will see over the next years in the market? And maybe just a small comment. In Europe, we see a shortage of affordable battery electric vehicles in the offerings because many people in Europe are only able to spend like 20,000, 25,000 euros for their vehicles. So what are the new vehicle types, vehicle designs you are thinking about at Tesla?
Well, our next generation vehicle will be a lower cost vehicle, also that is very focused on autonomy. Like I said, we really are getting to the point where the car can drive itself well. When you're in the US, I would recommend perhaps trying out our car and seeing how it works. It's remarkable, as the AI gets better and better, it actually feels quite human-like in the way that it drives. It does things that you wouldn't expect a computer to do. It's not like a robot dancing, It's like it feels smooth and intuitive. So our next generation vehicle, which we're quite far along on, is very much anticipating autonomy. And then, of course, we've got some fun things as well, like the new Tesla Roads, which will be able to do 0 to 100 kilometers in under 1 second.
Tesla isn't the only car maker in the EV world, but it was the company that kicked the door down and showed the world that EVs are desirable, practical, and luxurious, and they set the high bar and forced traditional car makers to play catch-up. In today's video, we're going to take a sneak peek of what the future of gas-powered cars look like, and how Tesla has paved the way for a future where gas guzzlers might end up as relics of a bygone era. So buckle up as we guide you through this fascinating story of one-time dominance and resounding takeovers. Let's dive in.
What you have here is a situation where, Joe Manchin was the player who, Washington really just had to sort of bend to his will, and he was really reluctant to allow for electric vehicles to continue to get tax credits. He was opposed to them, and he said, "Okay, industry, we'll give you these tax credits, but you build me a supply chain." That, of course, sort of didn't take into account sort of the complexities of the supply chain and the fact that China is just so dominant in this space, and they've really sort of methodically, for a time quietly, built this staggeringly strong position in terms of the control of the inputs, whether it's nickel and lithium, graphite. These inputs are going to be really, really difficult to source, not only just, whether they're mined in China, but whether they're sort of processed and refined, and, the sort of cost difference that the West is going to have to sort of overcome really just can't be, sort of overstated at this point.
And folks, if you want to see this article, it's a fantastic article, really deeply reported, great graphics, makes it easy for me because I like the pictures. Bloomberg.com/big take is kind of where you find it. Big team effort. So, Craig, I see in your reporting here, in 2023, the IRA required that at least half of the value of battery components had to be assembled in North America, and that 40% of the raw materials had to be sourced from the U.S. And in 2027, that raw material requirement is going to double to 80%. Are those numbers, can they be achieved in that time frame?
I think that's one of the things that, it sort of depends on which company you ask. And I think, some of the concerns that the industry is having here is the fact that some of these raw materials, the prices have really collapsed. And, that you would sort of think, oh, that's a good thing for the auto companies. But if you're trying to build a supply chain in North America for these raw materials, and the prices for them have absolutely, sort of the bottom has come out. I think of lithium in particular, you've seen just this dramatic, drop in prices that significantly undermines the economics of those projects. And so, I think the raw materials in particular are a real challenge. I think battery components will be less of a challenge, but even there, it is, a matter of, you can't just sort of snap your fingers and open up a bunch of plants for these various components. It does take time, to put, dig up the ground and put up these plants that are coming, but are taking some time.
And Craig, across the automakers, I'm looking at the reporting again. 7 of Tesla's 12 models sold in the U.S. fully cleared the IRA's sourcing hurdles and qualified for the tax credit. What percentage of EVs being sold in the U.S. are clearing that hurdle?
I think because Tesla is still so dominant in the U.S., we're at a point where, the EVs that do the most volume are largely qualifying at the moment. But I think the fact that those raw material requirements that kick in next year and then escalate in the years that follow, that's really where we're going to see even more of a sort of, level of screws put on the industry.
It all started with a rumble of discontent. We became more aware of the not-so-friendly impacts of gasoline and what it does to the environment. Climate change became a hot topic, with people looking for ways to reduce their carbon footprint. It was at that point that EVs started to become a talking point. At first, EVs were there, but they weren't exactly the center of attention. They were expensive, had limited range, and charging stations were scarce. But eventually they did blossom. Battery tech improved tremendously, and it gave cars more juice to travel further. Charging stations were also popping up like mushrooms after a rain shower, reducing range anxiety on road trips. Hey guys, welcome back to Tesla Tomorrow. Let's add another chapter to the story, the one that Tesla has become a household name with. The thing is, Tesla wasn't the first to jump on the EV bandwagon, but they did step on the gas and took the lead. The automaker didn't just make EVs, but they made them cool. The sleek designs and futuristic features of these cars turned heads and sparked a new kind of car envy, and suddenly the electric car wasn't just a practical one for eco-warriors, but a desirable tech toy. How did this happen? Let's find out, but before we do, if you're liking this type of content, hit that like button, subscribe and turn on post notifications to keep up to date on everything going on with Tesla. Tesla's impact goes beyond shiny interiors. The automakers played a huge role in pushing the boundaries of battery technology. Remember how we said EVs had limited range? Well, Tesla became a battery powerhouse, making new batteries that could allow their cars to travel further, and it was a game changer. People weren't as worried about getting stranded at the side of the road with a dead battery, and it made EVs a bit of a more realistic option. Tesla once also played a big part in charging infrastructure. It also built its own network of superchargers, strategically placed along major routes. This wasn't just convenient, but it was a statement, a sign that EVs weren't just city cars, but they could handle road trips as well. So the next time you see a sleek EV zipping by, remember that Tesla might have had a hand in making it happen.
I think the narrative out there, just kind of the bigger picture on EVs right now is, gee, maybe demand isn't as high as we all thought at one point. We've got, the big auto manufacturers pulling back, like Ford, for example. Loss is still big. What's your understanding when you talk to your sources as to how people are thinking about the ultimate demand for EVs over the next 1 to 3 to 5 years?
I think, perversely, it was a challenge that, for a time, business was too good. The fact that, for a while there, so many companies, actually had back orders. Tesla in particular, had demand issues as opposed to a supply issue. That, really sort of caused this, unsustainable, jacking up of prices. The fact that that has had to come down, I would say, more dramatically than we've seen for the rest of the industry, has had all sorts of unintended consequences when you so dramatically bring down prices on the new side. The used side is of the equation. The used vehicles really lose their value, and the fact that I think EVs maybe have some sort of particular challenges with maintaining their value. When you think about a used gas car, you don't worry about, the engine holding up. You maybe have, relatively more concern, rightfully or not, as to whether or not the battery is going to hold up. And so what we're seeing is that really come into play in terms of total cost of ownership. I think that's one of the things that we've really paid close attention to lately. I think when we step back, the fact that EVs is sort of, the way forward, particularly in terms of, where the regulators want to see this industry go. I think we've seen that China is able to make this work. We've seen that Europe is much further along in this transition. I think the question for the U.S. is whether we can sort of, get Americans who tend to like bigger vehicles to come around to electric vehicles. I think that also adds some complications to the mix as well.
In 2023, the Model Y became the best-selling passenger vehicle on Earth in the first quarter of the year. It was the best-selling non-pickup truck in the USA in the first quarter, the best-selling SUV in China in the first quarter, and the best-selling vehicle of any kind in Europe in the first quarter. Also, the Tesla model had consistently been at the top of sales charts in the 3 biggest automobile markets in the world, and that led to the Model Y climbing 3 spots to number 1 globally that last year, with more than 263,000 units sold. Tesla Model 3 has also been pretty impressive. This model had annihilated its ICE counterparts in a new reliability study from Germany. In fact, a new study from German vehicle analysis firm, the ADAC, highlighted the reliability advantages of the Model 3 and how it beat out a majority of the gas-powered competition. According to their data, electric vehicles not only lead their gas counterparts on average, but the Model 3 beat both gas vehicles and EVs in terms of average reliability by a wide margin. Therefore, owning the incredible mechanical simplicity of EVs is a bit of a key thing to have when it comes to having EVs and how they're beating fossil fuel counterparts.
Well, during the chip crisis, we certainly all did have many contacts. Fortunately, we were able to master it together. Of course, we all would like to avoid a second chip crisis. But with regard to your comment on power demand, we all know today vehicles have 3 to 4 kilowatt power demand for the peripherals, but this is continuously going up. And Tesla has recently launched the Cybertruck, which I believe is mostly coming with 48 volt. Do you see this as a, let's say, further disruption of automotive industry, another technology change within automotive?
Yeah, I think, the automotive industry has been living with 12 volts for a very long time, a century roughly. I think it started off as 6 volts, and then they needed a more powerful starter motor, and then they doubled it to 12 volts, although it's actually more like 13.7 volts.
You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the bus voltage actually varies a lot for those, since there are probably some electrical engineers in the audience. It's like 12 volts is a very rough approximation. But it's really kind of a arbitrary low voltage. And if you look at, say, power Ethernet, it's running at 50 volts or roughly 48 volts. And we set it at 48 volts because anything really above that, you start to run into regulatory concerns. And power Ethernet is, like I said, roughly at that level. But the advantage of obviously quadrupling the voltage is that you can substantially reduce how much copper or conductor is used in the car. So you can use very small copper wires for, it's roughly roughly a quarter, not exactly a quarter, but roughly a quarter as much copper is needed for 48 volts as for 12. So I think it's a logical move. That's really the next step for the low voltage architecture for the car. I think ultimately, long term, all cars will be 48.
It's interesting that many people love electric vehicles and want to have them, but some are harmed by a missing infrastructure. That would be the same actually as the thing. We will have lots of chips ready, but we will not have the power to operate them. There's a race between infrastructure and technology right now. And you're also certain technology may win, which is a problem because actually infrastructure should win. We should have all the infrastructure we need. Is that correct?
Yeah. Are you talking about like sort of charging infrastructure for cars and that kind of thing? Well, the reason Tesla developed the sort of global supercharger network was specifically to address that point, the point you're making, which is people need to be comfortable that they can travel long distances and charge their car wherever they go. Unfortunately, electricity is almost everywhere, and so it's not all that rare unless you're really far out in the countryside or something. So yeah, you need you need the charging infrastructure and the electricity to charge electric cars. In fact, the simultaneous growth of electric cars and AI, both of which need electricity, both of which need voltage transformers, actually I think is creating a tremendous demand for electrical equipment and for electrical power generation.
While it's obvious that Tesla may benefit from the triumph of EVs over gas-powered cars, it is also important to note that the automaker still has strong competition in-house. Tesla was once the biggest player in the EV market, with a range of luxurious vehicles, and it was pretty unparalleled. Word of mouth got the company strong enough to sell its cars in bulk with virtually no marketing effort. But with competition stiffening, Tesla has put more work into this, and at some point Tesla even considered running ads for some of its products. The truth is, multiple drastic price cuts by Tesla have failed to ignite the automaker's sales in the way executives might have hoped. Another given is the huge entry of new EVs in the market, and it's not surprising that Tesla's feeling the heat. Its cars are no longer the only option, and now it's got to start fighting for market share. However, fortunately, Tesla still has a few advantages. It's got established range, a large EV production footprint with 4 plants globally, and many of its competition is still just building their manufacturing capabilities out. Tesla is already doing incredibly well in their markets. Aside from EVs, Tesla is also making a deep dive into AI. November 2021 saw Cathie describing AI as the next big frontier in the tech sector, and even ARK believes that AI and its technologies can get together to provide exponential growth into the future of the global economy. Cathie Wood further revealed that her firm has been working on AI for a long time now, and she thinks that some things that are seen now are just the beginning of what AI will have to offer.
Much talk about AI in these 2 days, so we need your opinion. What do you think about the next 5 to 10 years on AI? Please give us a view.
Artificial insemination?
Artificial intelligence. What do you think about that?
Okay. Well, try audience, I must say. Yes, artificial intelligence is certainly going to profoundly change the world. I mean, one of the most significant ways is self-driving. So we've been putting a lot of effort into self-driving technology for cars. You don't see it quite as much in Europe because we first have to make it work in the US before we increase the complexity of trying to make it elsewhere in the world. But I think we're quite close to having the car be fully autonomous. So for example, like right now, I'm in Austin, and if I wanted to drive, say, to the airport, the car could take me to the airport with no interventions. And all it's using are digital neural nets, in other words, artificial intelligence, and cameras. So there's no LiDAR, radar, nothing. And in fact, if you think about how humans drive cars, humans are biological neural nets, and we use eyes. So it's the eyes and biological neural nets. The analog is digital. The analog for digital is cameras and digital neural nets. This is working remarkably well. But it has been quite difficult to do this because it turns out that in order for this to work, the car has to really be quite fully intelligent. Really, as a subset, for example, it has to learn how to read everything and how to assess intention among drivers and pedestrians. Right. So you're end up creating sort of a baby artificial general intelligence to solve this.
At the heart of Cathie Wood's prediction is a disruptive innovation. In her 2023 Big Ideas report, she stated that the market value of disruptive technology platforms could scale 40% at an annual rate during the business cycle, from $13 trillion today to $200 trillion by 2030. She also stated in the report in 2030, the market value associated with disruptive innovation could account for the majority of global equity market capitalization, and that's where Tesla's got a huge edge. ARK reported in a statement that winners in AI are companies with high-quality, domain-specific AI training data across vertical applications. It also stated that better and more specific data resulted in better AI models, and it will give rise to more products that will attract more customers. Cathie Wood also mentioned that AI is going to converge with everything, blurring lines between sectors and causing companies to cross over into each other's sectors. So where does all of this leave Tesla and other EV makers? Well, we think that innovations will continue to spring up over the years, and electric motors have already set some serious torque, translating to instant acceleration that can push you back in your seat. Plus, who wouldn't want to ditch the noisy engine and cruise in peaceful silence? Of course, gas-powered cars aren't disappearing overnight. They're still affordable, familiar, and have a well-established network of gas stations, but the tide is turning. Governments are starting to offer incentives for EVs, and some countries are even setting deadlines to phase them out entirely when it comes to gas-powered cars. So, while it's hard to say what the future does bring, we know that it is looking bright for EVs, and they're becoming more accessible, exciting, and better for the environment. And so, the rumble of the gas engine might fade into a distant memory, replaced by the quiet hum of electric progress. But who knows, maybe these childhood dreams of cruising around in a gas-powered car will transform into visions of sleek, silent EVs, leaving a trail of clean air in their wake. But what do you think? Will gas-powered cars go extinct? Let us know down below, and let us know your valuation of Tesla. And for more updates on Tesla, go ahead and click on this next video on your screen. See you there.